Welcome to Season 2 of the Erotic Realm podcast, where we explore the world of eroticism, one erotic realm at a time. I'm Em, a sexologist and kinkster. The mission of the Erotic Realm is to humanize desire in all of its forms, including darker desires. Each episode, we dive deep into the psychology of desire with a sexpert, everyday kinkster, or a kink expert. This is an independent podcast. To support it, please consider becoming a paid subscriber at psychologyofdesire.com, where you'll also find deep dives into desire and surveys that you can participate in. You can also sign up there to get the podcast delivered directly to your inbox when it's released. If you'd like to support the podcast, please consider checking out the brands that support the Erotic Realm. There's Firm Tech, whose tech ring offers fascinating insights into sexual health by tracking erection quality and nocturnal function. Splash Blanket, who create luxurious waterproof blankets designed for comfort, intimacy, and real-life messes. ProDX Health, who offer discreet, at-home STI testing. While Karoo and Lovents make premium pleasure technology, from couple toys to long-distance interactive devices. Then there's Lioness, who are doing something truly unique in sex tech, using biofeedback and orgasm data to help people better understand their arousal. I'm also partnering with Flow and Desire, science-backed libido support supplements designed to support sexual vitality and well-being. These are brands that I find genuinely interesting, science-backed, and I've used them myself, so they come with my recommendation. You can find the links to all of them in the episode description. If you try them, use the links below. It supports the show at no extra cost to you. And now, back to today's conversation. The following conversation explores female orgasm, expanded sexual response, sexual well-being, kink, intimacy, pleasure, and human desire. Today's guest is May Supervagtastic, educator, former professor, content creator, and someone who has spent years speaking with thousands of people about their deepest fantasies, insecurities, and intimate lives. In this conversation, we explore what those intimate conversations have revealed to her about human desire, why so many people struggle with orgasm, and what research tells us about expanded sexual response. We also discuss why pleasure is often misunderstood, the psychology behind great sexual experiences, and what May believes everyone should know about communication, consent, respect, safety, and intention. Enjoy. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Erotic Realm. Today I'm looking forward to exploring the erotic realm of May Super. Welcome, May.
Hi, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Happy to have you. So first of all, we normally start with getting a sense of who you are in your day-to-day life when you're not exploring sexuality. So what do you like to get up to day to day?
You know, I'm kind of the smart, geeky type who got into kink and sexual exploration later in life, more the MILF, mature, experienced woman, teacher. And so, I mean, it's pretty standard, I think, for most people. I'm a single mom, that MILF aspect of it. You know, I don't know, read movies, swim, get outside in fresh air. And then the other side of me is work, play, and exploration. Yeah.
Oh. And what about your sexuality and your kinky self? How would you describe each of those?
So I consider myself, cis female, going into this from the point of view of somebody who was in a long-term monogamous relationship for many years, since when I was fairly young. And I got free later in life and had the chance to kind of explore. And it turned into not only my own dating explorations and talking to so many people and going on so many dates, but also turning that into work, which is why I do the modeling and the camming and the OF. And I mean, if I can write, if I can perform, if I can have fun and help others, it's what I'm about. So just very exploratory in this phase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned that you've spent years talking with people about some of their most private fantasies and insecurities in a professional context. Can you tell us more about what that context is?
Well, I started out as a professor in the sciences, so I've had like thousands of students in a college setting prior to any of this. So I never know who's going to actually see me online and be like, "Wait, is that my?" Yeah, it is. So that's fun just to start off with. The other part of it is when you're online, as you well know, you have a global audience, and people will come to you with anything and everything. I mean, if there's something I haven't heard, I'd be really surprised by this point as, the cam model that I am, having people come in and want to talk about their fantasies and possibly want to recreate those with me or, with me in some way, either on the show or, I mean, I'm a masseuse, I'm a healer. I do this in so many different formats. I feel that as long as I'm helping people, then, and I'm using my instinct to do it, I'm probably doing it right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you mentioned that you were a professor, and
Yes.
yet now it sounds like you're in a completely different realm of work. How did that transition happen? Was there a particular moment where you decided to stop being a professor? What happened there?
Well, I'm an American girl, and if you're following any of the social politics here, it's kind of hard to ignore what's happening. And for us, freedom, and I think around the world, for a lot of people, freedom is a really important topic. And so I could say that I didn't feel as free as I would have liked in that college job. I loved my job. I love working with students, but I don't like the restrictions of having an administration who's not there all the time yet gets to make big decisions about what happens. And as the teacher that I am, I always wanted student-centered. I wanted people-centered. I wanted community-centered. So it was frustrating when we got a new chair of department who didn't exactly see it the way of the teacher's view, if you know what I mean, right? And so I decided to move from that, and also being a single mom and having some health issues, to something that I could do from home all the time, that I had more control over, that I could build my own biz from, and sort of really just solo from home, from nothing, kind of just started to learn. And again, part of it was just dating. I didn't know anything about a lot of the adult world out there online. Trying different dating sites. By the way, I'm banned quite a few of them at this point. Thank you very much.
Right.
You would know why, censorship, right? Apparently they don't like strong women's voices out in the ether these days. And so it just sort of progressed into what it is now. And I advise people and I write about some of my experiences. I help, everybody from the young 18-year plus virginal kid, and I call them kid, they're boys, right? They're boys turning into men, who has questions and never felt like he had anyone to go to answer these. Not his parents, not his friends. Porn is not a good teacher. So who do you come to? You come to the older woman, you come to the teacher, you come to the person who's most likely not going to guilt or shame you about anything, and yet be open to talking about those things that this person or these people really, really need answers to, or really need a friend, really, that they don't have in their real life to talk to. So that's pretty much where I come in.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So you've interacted with thousands of clients over the years. What would you say has been your biggest learning about desire and human sexuality from that time?
Well, we all have it. It's natural. I always say follow your instincts, and those, if there's something in your head telling you something's not right or something is right, follow that. And if all else fails, learn some basics. I have my top 5, which I, would love to tell everybody about. So I'm going to do that right now. I hope.
Yeah, please. Yeah, I had it down for later, but I'm happy to go into it now. I'm really curious. Your
Awesome.
5 guidelines, right?
So obviously consent. And I'm sure you've talked about this in great detail, and the fact that we got to use our words and get a very resounding yes before we even touch anybody or open to that kind of eroticism. The next one is intent. I always want to know what the purpose that someone has with me and me with them is. Also safety, respect, and communication. If you can do those 5 things, you're usually on the responsible track towards doing whatever your behavior is correctly. And I think if we have more respect for each other, and we, people get to learn some basic guidelines on how to interact properly with other people in a healthy manner, then we're all better for it.
So these are your guidelines for success in dating, exploring sexuality, kink, the whole thing. Which one?
Everything.
Which one do you feel like people struggle with the most?
you'd be surprised how many people have never been taught about consent.
Mm.
So say on a date, the date tries to put his hand on you without asking. I consider that a no-go. I don't think that's a very smart move. In fact, I would consider that an invasion of space and privacy. You really have to communicate your purpose before touching somebody. And because so much of what we do in anything erotica, in anything sex, even in massage, I always ask my massage clients prior if I'm allowed to touch them. And I feel like we need to start practicing this as a global society, because there's so many people that just don't know and don't do it. So instead of just putting your hands on somebody without asking, make sure you get that verbal yes. That's always my
Do you have a recommendation for how to ask? Because a lot of people feel like if they ask, it makes it cringy or not sexy. Is there any way to make it a little bit more sexy, or is it just sexy to ask for consent at all?
Well, time and effort in anything you do. If you're going to do it right, then do it right. And that means putting some basic thought into it, put some time and effort into it. I mean, I've personally never had a problem with somebody wanting to continue to do whatever it was that person had planned, after this process. I just try to make it as light as possible and sort of make it quick. And again, if you get that yes, you keep going. If you don't, you stop and you reassess. And honestly, I often say if I brought a guy here, okay, I'm pan, but if I brought a guy here that I wanted to play with, he's already hard coming in the door. Like, I don't have any misconception about what we're doing, what it's going to be, assuming that it's, sexual play coming in. Like, I don't really find that there's that cringy moment. I think it's more like somebody being excited and comfortable at the same time and feeling that safety to explore actually leads to more passionate and more fun encounters with whoever your partners are. So in that way, never had a problem. And again, if you do it right and you just keep it flowing, spend a little extra time, getting somebody comfortable should be worth it. Yeah.
So consent is the one out of the 5 that people struggle with the most. What would you say most people just already understand coming to you? Is there one that stands out where you feel like you don't have to explain so much?
Well, I wouldn't call this one of my 5, but no, I feel like a lot of what I do is teaching the world that these are the standards. And I don't feel like people are learning these in other places. And that's what has me concerned. I feel like consistently with almost everyone I've met, and this is thousands of people, they do not have a very solid understanding of do's and don'ts in terms of touching somebody else. And because of that, it's so much of how I do what I do. So permission, consent, definitely top. I mean, some people can be respectful. There's plenty more that don't, especially in the pool I'm swimming in online, So it's really just ask permission ahead. That's simple.
You specifically mentioned male psychology as well. What do you think men specifically struggle with in terms of their desire or confidence when it comes to sexuality?
Well, interestingly enough, I think lots of people are anxious when it comes to any form of sexuality. And I don't care what age they are, even experience level to a certain extent. I think everybody can be nervous in a given situation. But I mean, they're very clear in their desires. They know what they like. If you ask a male what he likes, especially with me, he's going to be very, very clear as to what that is. And I love that. But at the same time, it's not very real world. And so the one thing that I definitely have to help the guys with is they have the worst taste in porn. And what's pushed on the male population these days is so toxic and so horrible. And, I find that I have to regularly kind of have conversations with friends of mine to not constantly push that same genre on me. And I think most women don't really enjoy getting those kind of text messages randomly without permission, if you know what I mean. And we do all the time. And I've had to have major conversations, even with my friends, even with people I know well in sexual situations that I've been in for, a year or 2 years. I still have to have this talk with every single one of these guys on a regular basis about not pushing that kind of porn on women in general, but especially without asking. Yeah.
And you said that people often tell you things that they've never told anyone else. Why do you think that happens? Is that because people just don't have anyone else in their life that they're comfortable with?
there's a huge issue with a lot of isolated people these days. Technology has been great, but when people work a lot and when they, are in their own apartment, their own room, whatever, and they're in front of the screen a lot more for entertainment and for schoolwork, whatever you do, right? Communication. They're not really around a lot of actual human beings as often. And I imagine if we looked into some of the scientific articles on this, especially here in the US of A, you'd find that there's a lot more people, especially young people, who have major time in front of the screen and not a lot of time with other human beings. They've not learned certain social skills the past generations have. And I find that I'm talking about that all the time with people. And if someone is comfortable coming to you, if they feel like they're not going to be discriminated against, they feel like you're going to try to understand them and give them good advice, then usually you're going to gain that that feeling of, the respect and the safety, which is required to have these conversations.
So that's a common pattern, I imagine, with the younger generation. What about the older generation that you speak to as well? Do you see certain patterns occurring in older men that perhaps don't happen in the younger men?
Sure. We could talk about the married guys that come on the show and, for entertainment. But a lot of times what I explain about this, other countries aren't as weirded out about married guys coming in and talking to somebody about these kind of topics. Here in the US, it's a little bit more taboo, if you know what I mean. And so I always say, well, let's get you healthy and well and answer your questions and whatever you need so you can go and get back to that family and get back to your responsibilities, have a good night's sleep, you know what I'm saying? And just go back a fresh, better person. You take better care of your family, you take better care of your whoever's at home if you take care of yourself first. So often I make it, I guess I act more the professional in the sense that I'm saying, okay, don't hold on to the guilt and shame of whatever you're feeling right now because some form of mass society suggests maybe you should in the media. Instead, do what you got to do. If you got to take care of yourself, that includes your sexual health, includes your mental health, includes a great many aspects of things people do in their own bedroom privately for themselves, right? Deal with it, take care of it, and get back to being the best you can be, because that's going to help everybody else around you.
Very well said. Yeah. I wanted to go into today's quote, which is actually about sexual well-being. And it's from Emily Nagoski, who is an American sex educator and researcher. And she's the author of the well-known book, Come As You Are. So her work has transformed how many people think about sexuality. And she writes in it, pleasure is the measure. So she's proposing that the true indicator of sexual well-being is how much you enjoy the sex that you're having, rather than frequency, desire, or performance metrics. So when you hear that quote, what comes up for you? Do you think too many people judge their sexuality by performance instead of pleasure? And if so, why?
Well, I would agree for some people it's pleasure. If we're really going to have an intelligent conversation about this, we got to bring in all the other forms of kink and what people get out of it. For me, it's definitely pleasure-based. And for me, it's less of the extreme kinky and more of the, how would I rate the sexual partner? Not only the sex, but the person, the physical, the all of it. Was there a mental emotional connection? Was it a clean, safe space that we were in? Did we get to have plenty of time and no distractions in the moment? And what am I wearing? What are they wearing to take it off? Right? There's so many factors into what's good. But I would say that I have a rating system as in terms of a lover. It's a 0 to 10 kind of thing. And my few people who are at the 10 rating earn it. And it just, it when you're there. I mean, you can't really suggest anything better, right? In that moment with that person in that situation, that's a 10. And I have a few friends who I would consider 10s, and it's a very small portion of my population, of my circle and the people that I know. But yeah, maybe 5 people out of the few hundred that I've played with.
Okay. What do those 5 people have that those few hundred do not?
The quality is kind of in everything. They are exceptional at what they do with me. And we are able to together just make it like at the end, when both of you hours later go, wow, right? You just know. If you've never done it, you won't know. If you've had it with somebody else and that pleasure is just, for most people, I think sex is kind of an emptying out. I don't want to think at the end. I just want to be able to be numb and be happy and get a good night's sleep and rest and just stop and rest and put it down. For so many people, when our mind is constantly going, we're busy, right? You're going to be able to put all that down. So if you can really manage that, I often think of it as like forgetting what day it is, what year it is, what's my name, if you can have that right at the end of the session, I think you've done it right. And it may be rare, but when you find it, do that.
Sounds delicious.
You're right. Yes.
Now, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, and I'm sure many people will be fascinated by, is your experience of what you describe as extreme progressive orgasms. So I found a research article to explore this phenomenon with you today, and it's titled 5 Cases with Expanded Sexual Response. And so in this article, the researchers define this expanded sexual response as a rare pattern of sexual response in which some women report prolonged, sustained orgasmic states lasting several minutes or longer. So rather than viewing orgasm as a single peak, the paper describes women who experience continuous waves of pleasure, multiple overlapping orgasms, and even altered states of consciousness during these experiences. So it's an exploratory study. There's only 5 people, but it raises questions, right, about how diverse female orgasmic experience may be. So I'd love to compare these findings with your own lived experience.
Sure, absolutely. So I think in my case, and I can't speak for the other people, but I'd love to get that resource from you. Send it to me.
Of course.
Yes, thank you. In my case, I have an endocrine system condition that includes right now not having a thyroid. So my endocrine system doesn't exactly regulate like most people, especially like most women. Without that regulation, I think I have higher pheromone levels that just happen to be the right ones that get me there and get me there regularly. Now, like most people, there's usually a mental emotional component to this, but when my hormones are just crazy nuts off the wall, I can often like even mentally put myself into it and take myself out. And that's more recent that I've been able to do this without any physical, anything. But yes, I can have exceptionally long ones. There's so many, I can't even count them, which is why I often say, I think we're in the thousands if I'm doing like an hours long, progression with somebody.
Wow.
And they do absolutely overlap like that. It's so intensive that, I guess if you really like a woman and being in her pleasure and you're doing it for me, you're going to like me. And I often have people say things like, wow, I've never experienced that before, or, oh my gosh, like all your holes are just amazing. And I know that might sound a little shallow, but it's accurate, right? And so I could give you an example. One of my sexual partners that I've had for the last 2 years or so, we had a session where we went for about 11 hours.
Oof.
11 hours. And the breaks weren't even really breaks because we were so at each other the whole time. Even when one of us would try to get in the shower, then one would follow in and we just start, you know what I mean? You'd almost never stop. And so it basically just becomes this thing where one of us will be like, yeah, I think we should stop and take a break. And then he's got his hand in me again and we just start, you know what I mean?
Oh, sounds terrible.
It's wonderful. It's so wonderful. And obviously I'm in. Obviously this was agreed upon ahead of time. Whatever happens, happens. If we're both having fun, we have our safe words, there's basic guidelines. I often say, hey, no jail, no hospital, we good. Yeah, you got to be honest about that kind of stuff. But that allows you to really explore and do things that you and your partner really like, figuring it out together what you like, and then just, if you find a partner, like I said, who's a 10 like that, you can have some really, really amazing sessions. There's only been one time that I can really remember that I had a super out-of-body experience with this, and I think it was because of reduced oxygen levels to my brain, because when I come like that, especially if I'm coming really hard, really a lot for a long time, I can't properly take a breath. I have to actually will myself to kind of lessen the orgasm. to get a good
Right.
breathful. Muscles are spasming everywhere, all over my body, so hard, right? And repeatedly. And I'm so exhausted. And so I did kind of have one out of body experience where I had a couple of friends it was 4 a.m., right, where I live. And normally nobody's going to be texting me at 4 a.m. I had 10 friends who texted me at 4 a.m. and just went, I had this crazy dream with you in it. And again, I'm the scientist. I'm not really the one to like any suggestions outside of what just happened, but it was a very odd experience. And I've never really recreated it. I'm not sure I should, because I probably was pretty close to passing out. But at the same time, I'm kind of curious about the oxygen withdrawal and what that can actually do to the brain and the brain's ability, like in an empath like me, to send out a signal, which I often feel like I kind of have a sixth sense with this, being an empath. We do. We observe more. When we touch, we feel more. We're just very, very able to be sensitive to other people's feelings, right? And so, I don't know, it was just a really strange experience, but one I'd love to understand more about.
Well, that gets into the whole realm of what is consciousness and the idea behind consciousness not being a product of the brain and biology, which is what the consciousness researchers are kind of suggesting now, which is, yeah, it's amazing that science and woo-woo stuff is kind of combining the deeper they get into it. I have
I love what they're going for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I have so many questions about you. Sorry, what was that?
So you never know it's possible until somebody researches it with an open mind, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Love it. Okay.
I have so many questions about your orgasms. You mentioned you have a thyroid condition. So are you saying that your orgasms didn't used to be this intense and prolonged before that condition, and you feel like that has increased them, or you've always been this way?
Yeah, I've had it my whole life. And my thyroid, I believe, started failing when I was a child. And so it finally became a cancerous tumor and an autoimmune condition and a number of other things. The immune system and the endocrine system and the reproductive system and the nervous system, it's all so interrelated. Our whole bodies are so interrelated. And I've really learned from everything I've gone through with my health and my orgasming, to really trust myself when it comes to my body and listening to my body. And so I did start out this way. I remember being, if it's okay that I say this in terms of an age, I remember having sexual desire at the age of about 8 on. And I think females tend to start earlier when we've got interesting hormones, like I have interesting hormones. But yet it progressed into me having to have the thyroid out. So if the thyroid regulates your entire endocrine system, and the endocrine system, really has a lot to do with your reproductive system and your hormones, well, then my whole body's hormones are non-regulated. So there's times, especially if I'm low thyroid, where I can smell myself in terms of my extreme pheromones. Like it's turning me on. It's kind of annoying a little bit. Like it's almost a little too much. I feel like I'm that flower opening in the middle of a tropical rainforest that's been like, wait a minute, I don't know if I should go out in public right now, because it can be almost too strong to the people around me. I got to wonder if I'm walking around in the market and everybody else can smell me, if women can smell each other when we're having our cycles, we end up cycling together. If you got women in the same household or, best friends or something, then doesn't that mean that other people, when we're out and about, can smell us too, right? So what do my pheromones do to the general public if I got to go out and grocery shop, right? It's interesting. It's kind of something that I hope I can study a little bit more so I learn a little bit more about.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, fascinating. Can you take us into your experience of orgasm? So can you describe what happens in your body and your mind? And if it does feel like one big rolling orgasm or waves of many individual orgasms, can you take us into it?
Yeah. So, I've had times where I feel like my hormones got more what most women would consider normal, which is like you could have an orgasm or a few orgasms. Those are my bad days, okay? Most of the time, especially, and I would say the more sex I'm having, definitely the more active my hormones are going to. So, and the more work as well. So if I'm on the cam show and somebody's playing with my interactive sex toys, you know what I'm saying? It's definitely going to be turning me on. If somebody's talking dirty to me in a way I like it, that mental emotional for sure does it for me. I don't know, dressing up sexy, right? Being in lingerie, like I'm in this black and red getup right now, and feeling good. And then either being with somebody else or envisioning some sort of fun scenario, playing with the toys. It's different at different times, but when it's really, really amazingly good, it's full body, it's multiple waves. They start and stop many at a time. And it can just, if I'm really, really hormonal, especially ovulation week and period week, it can just go on for hours and hours and days kind of thing. Like I got to intentionally take breaks when I need water, when I need food. And again, keeping that endocrine system, as balanced as possible while still allowing me to have this kind of orgasming is very, very tricky. It's really a challenge. That health versus sexual ability balance there, right? It's really tricky. So positives and negatives to it, but yeah, when I'm on, I'm on. And I could be sitting at the breakfast table, I eat something, that sugar hits my blood with a little liquids, and my body will just start orgasming. Sometimes I'm just there, and it's not even anything I specifically do or any sexual play. Maybe I thought of something or felt something that was kind of like, right? It felt good. And then my body will just go into an orgasm. And it's certain days, full moon especially, is going to be throwing me. So,
and it was a full moon last night. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, this last week was interesting. So,
So when you have an orgasm, does it begin in the genital area for you, or is it more of a full body experience straight away, or does that change for you? Can you take us into the initial sensations?
I can orgasm from a lot of different things or from a lot of different parts of my body and in a lot of different ways. But it usually is very much so core centered. So like I liken it to having the hiccups. It almost looks like I have the hiccups. It's very low abdominal core center. And, I'll just start having spasms every 2 seconds or something. And they're small and I can still think around them, kind of my stage ones, right? And then it'll sort of continue on to something I would call stage 2. And then around stage 3 to 5, they get too extreme for me to have a normal conversation, and it becomes full body. But I can go in and out of that state at different times. And again, it just depends how turned on I am and what I'm doing and what my hormones are like that day.
And you mentioned you can think yourself to orgasm. How? Can you take us through that process?
Okay, so at this point in the last few years, I've had quite a few in-person experiences with friends of mine and explored sexually. And some of those better experiences may include, for me, the smell of a really hot man. Okay, that's definitely a turn on for me. I would consider myself pan, but I usually have most of my opportunities with single males. And basically, if it's somebody that I've caught a whiff of in the past who just absolutely did it for me, often thinking about their scent and envisioning, that fun thing that we did 2 weeks ago, right? If I'm laying in bed and comfy and under the covers and by myself and it's quiet and, you know what I'm saying? I can often just think myself into it. Sometimes it can happen just because of the hormones, maybe when I don't do that. But if I want to, yeah, that's how I'd set myself off. Right before bed, especially. Yes.
It sounds like you're a scent-focused person in terms of your sexuality. Is that fair to say?
Yes, scent, taste, feel, even, again, and maybe you've noticed the glasses here if you're watching. If you're not, I'm wearing glasses, so sight is probably my least beneficial sense.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And so honestly, if I take the glasses off and everything's blurry, and this is how I grew up as a kid, a lot of my life, even doing sports, not being able to see as well. And so I think I both embrace the empathic sense and the other senses become so much more heightened. It's almost like you listen to them more. I guess it would be a hearing thing, but you sense them stronger. So being an empath, the lack of sight being a dominant, for me, a dominant sense, and the fact that because I am really aware of myself and my surroundings all the time, right? I can often set up something where I can start an orgasm or stop it, or and especially if I'm with somebody again who really turns me on, that's almost like, I say it's almost too easy. Like imagine being with somebody you don't want to orgasm. You're not there yet. You just met them, but they smell good. Imagine going into that orgasm in like a public setting because someone smells good. It's not always voluntary, right? And yet I always make it work. And what I do, being the world's sex educator, performer and everything else, teacher, you name it. Everybody wants to see this, of course, right? Which is part of what I do on the cam show and private shows. But it is pretty intense. And when I'm on, I'm really, really on. But yeah, there's positives and negatives to this. The negatives are kind of interesting,
Did you want to speak to them a little bit more?
It's more of a health thing. I spend a lot of time having to take care of myself. And honestly, if you're dealing with any issues with your body, health issues, medical issues, you do have to take care of yourself to be at your best. And if I want to keep orgasming and having fun and doing what I do and being able to juggle home, work, life, traveling, and you name it, being speaking on your wonderful Erotic Realm podcast, then I got to keep myself healthy first and foremost. So everything I suggest to everybody else about keeping yourself healthy and focusing on your health first, and that leads you to not only hopefully good sex, good education, community, right? Positivity and getting, what you want and need out of life. I think that's where it has to start with most people. And once we recognize that we are fallible human beings, right? We're not perfect. Our bodies aren't perfect. We have a lifespan. Well, if you want to keep that life, as happy and strong as possible, take care of yourself first and foremost. And then hopefully everything else, will be better and easier because of it.
So take us back to the beginning. How did you first discover that you experienced pleasure differently?
Well, different than who? I've met other empaths, although I understand it's not a very large part of the population. I read somewhere, and again, you and me both being educated individuals, pretty sure this was a research paper. I read somewhere that about 15% of the population they tested in this research paper was an empath, which means that the vast majority of people are not. I was always told I was sensitive, but it was usually meant in a negative way. Like, don't cry, don't show your emotion, right? Where a lot of people are weirded out about someone, and especially a female, showing some form of emotion. But it's super funny at this point because I think I've dialed in my medical and healthcare really well. And it's usually the guys that seem more emotional and need more help than the women. The women, at least a lot of my female friends have their shit together. These guys come to me, none of them have their shit together. And so I'm consistently, again, trying to be like, okay, well, let's see what happened. And usually it's like, I would say a lot of it's a lack of education, a lot of the people these days and the guys here that I talk to, a lot of them are playing video games, hanging out with their friends, watching that bad porn that I'm consistently trying to get the guys to not do. If that's the first thing that comes up on a site like Pornhub, maybe don't go with that. Search for something that's more you. Don't let these companies condition you guys into watching what they want you to watch, because they're going to go more extreme to get you addicted to that. And pretty soon, a lot of these guys aren't able to orgasm unless they watch the most extreme shit out there. And imagine being with a female like me, who's usually fabulous in bed, and the guy can't orgasm without porn on. That's scary. And if you guys are getting yourself there, that's not a healthy place to be. Take care of yourself first. Be careful what kind of adult entertainment you watch. Go with healthier versions. I like extreme in certain cases. I like hardcore. I play hardcore in certain cases, but I also play passionate. And I also, in so many, you do the variety of what feels right. I just really would caution a lot of the guys, because I see this all the time, to be careful about the violence level in porn. If you try to do that to an actual female, especially without asking her or putting that on, she's going to go, no, right? In many cases. And I do have to caution the guys that don't have a lot of experience not to expect that porn to be real life, because they think it's education when it's not. And so I spend a lot of time, even with people I know, trying to warn them, off of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Great advice. Thank you. Now, you just mentioned men that find it hard to orgasm. I'm sure there's some people listening, women, men, other genders, that may hear how many orgasms you're able to have, and they're thinking things like, oh, well, I can't orgasm like that, or I must be bad at orgasm. Do you think that belief, what people believe around their orgasm, can also become part of the problem? If someone's telling themselves, "Oh, I don't come, I don't orgasm," or "I can't do that," do you think that limits their potential for pleasure?
I think everyone is an individual who has to live within the bounds of their own body.
Mm-hmm.
And that's physical, it's mental, emotional, and it's your sexual experiences. I think if there are psychological issues, a lot of psychologists would probably ask you the question, well, what happened in your childhood, to get you where you're at now? And a lot of people still dealing with those problems that then affect their sex life. Okay. But that's kind of an unfair question. Somebody who has a medical issue that causes, in part, my orgasming the way it happens. You can't expect anyone else for this to be the norm. Be you. And you know what? If you can ever achieve an orgasm, good for you. And if you haven't, well, then maybe you need to learn a little bit about yourself and try to find a way to do that. Or if you're asexual and that's never been your norm and probably never will be, then you got to find something else in your life to make, yourself happy. And I never suggest anybody to push themselves to something that they are uncomfortable, that is not them.
Right.
You have to find your own path. Don't set your standards on somebody else. It doesn't work that way. Can you better yourself, and how do you do that? That's the focus.
Mm-hmm. I love the individual focus of that. So if you could change one thing about how we educate people about orgasm, what would it be?
Well, I wouldn't say we really educate people about orgasming.
It's true.
Okay, here in the States, at least when I was in high school, and we had it was never sex education. We weren't educated about sex. We weren't even educated about our own gender and opposite genders. It was more basic reproduction and human anatomy and nothing more. It was so substandard. It was so poorly done, and it was so censored. You didn't really learn anything, which is why I find people of all ages with very little information. We are simply not doing the process of educating our young people. Too many people have hangups about this, that, and the other. It's either religious or personal, but you know what? They don't realize that they're actually messing up their kids. And that's the truth. Because when those people don't have a proper education in this, they're going to go out and make a lot of mistakes. They get themselves in trouble, get other people in trouble. And I think it's really leading to a lot of unhealthy behavior, which is why we see some of these major headlines, if you in media these days, some really negative stuff, right? Whether it's sex slavery or it's, rape or, whatever. All of this very negative stuff associated with sex, I think, is coming from the fact that we are not educating our young people or anybody properly on this topic, nor on orgasming, nor on how the human body works. And the fact that, hey, guess what? It's okay that you have sexual urges and desires. People don't hear that. They actually have to come to me to hear that. And the fact that somebody at 50 years old has never heard that in their entire life, I would say is a problem, right? If this is happening regularly, and it is. So the fact that we're not dealing with it is the problem.
Yes, let's normalize having sexual desires and exploring them and finding out what you want.
Safely.
Now, I wanted to go back to your sexuality because I realized I didn't ask you about your top 3 kinks at the start of the podcast. If you could only explore 3 kinks moving forward from this point, and 3 kinks only, what would they be and why?
Well, I'm not sure if this technically counts as kink, because I think different people have a different idea of it.
Yes.
But for me, again, I would love to play with anybody and everybody and enjoy exploring, but this girl just loves to get pounded. I'm very much into penetrative sex. Vaginally and anally are my favorite, although I like all 3. And like, if I'm going to have a session with another person, very most likely another male or somebody with a phallus-like protrusion to work with, that's one of the places it almost always goes, and I enjoy it immensely. I can come from clitoral and a number of other forms of stimulation, but I just really enjoy it. It's sort of my thing. And then you mentioned the smell, the taste, the sounds, the feel, right? Those senses. When no porn, right? I'm so linked instinctively with my partners at the time that by itself is sort of what does it. And that's sort of the guide that you need in the moment to constantly change and update your understanding of yourself, your partner or partners, change things up. And I mean, most of us, if it's done right, are fully focused on this process. And that's another suggestion I have for people. Let everything on the outside go and just do that. Don't pick up your phone. Don't have TV on in the background. You need to focus on your partner, and your partner or partners on you. And a lot of people haven't figured this out yet. Go figure. The other thing I imagine would just be, I really wish I had more sex than I do. And I say this as a single woman, okay? It's exceptionally difficult to find like a real relationship and partner, especially for me, both because of the fact that I'm highly intelligent, I'm successful. I find a lot of people that maybe would, what we would call the fuck boys, that just want to come in and use you and then bounce, right? They've got nothing more to offer than that. Not a huge turn on to me. I'd love to find someone or even a polycule to be in a relationship with, but I just don't find that quality on a regular basis. I find a lot of people who need a lot of help and a lot of work, and that's not really my partnership ideal. So if I could find a partner or partners long-term, yeah, I think that would be the thing that does it for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's put it out into the universe and hopefully
Maybe
it happens.
World, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So as part of every episode, I ask my guests to bring along something that's influenced their erotic realm. A quote, book, film, any piece of art that's meaningful to them. What have you brought with you today, and how has it shaped your erotic realm?
Okay, so given that I turned dating, and especially online dating, into, in many ways, what I do for work, while still, in a way, looking, sort of in the background, I was reading a book on, I don't know where I came up with this, on the model Janice Dickinson. And she has a book out called No Lifeguard on Duty. And I don't know if anybody else is in the Southern California or Los Angeles city area, but if you know anything about living here in the entertainment industry, this quote actually really spoke to me, and I thought it was just fabulously funny and totally applicable. So this is the one. In Hollywood, it's not a dog-eat-dog world. It's a dog doesn't return other dogs' phone call world. And I would absolutely suggest that this ghosting thing is one of my least favorite aspects of the entire dating experience, and of the fact that people really just don't value other people's time or efforts, and that there's so much use. I call it use, abuse, discard out here. And there's so much of this that's so rampant, where people are only looking for one sexual experience, a hookup, whatever you want to call it, right? The fuckboy routine. Somebody's gaming, and they have no intention whatsoever of really getting to know you or doing this beyond a single experience. And it's a bit like, it's treating people like they're objects and not people. And I can honestly say that even though I understand that a lot of people are busy and have lives and this, that, and the other, I don't find it a very promising trait in humankind, that we don't treat each other with the proper level of respect. We don't communicate our intent always, and people will lie to get what they want, especially sexually. And I want more people to be honest. Like, let yourself, your personality show through, but do it in a way where you're not hurting anybody else, you're not manipulating anyone else, and it's all in the up and up. Do it right, as I often say. Have some basic honor and respect others. And so, yeah, I can't stand this. Somebody will tell me they're coming in for a massage session, and 5 minutes before they were supposed to be here, I can't get a message or a phone call out. They just won't pick up, and they won't show up. They don't cancel. They just waste my fucking time. And you'd be surprised how often this happens. It happened in dating. The guy's like, yeah, I'm on my way. I'm going to meet you there, blah, blah, blah. It was so extensive that it was like somewhere between 50 to 70% of the dates of men who describe themselves as single males would stand me up. Wow. And I mean, not cancel, just stand me up. Stand me up. I mean, hello. Like, you're gonna talk me into this girl for a day and then stand her up when you actually get to meet her? What is wrong with you? We have all of these people that never plan to follow through with what they say. Blah, 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 motherfucking blah. So I don't trust words. If you want to impress me and a good person, and a good woman at that, you better do what you say. And that is often my recommendation and demand to the guys out there. Don't get on and waste my fucking time. If we're going to have a conversation, you say you're going to do something, I think it would make you feel a lot better about yourself if you actually followed through.
Mm-hmm.
And it would make me respect you more, and it would make women possibly want to date more around here if we actually saw you guys do what you say you're going to do. So show that level of integrity, and then I'm impressed. Sad, but true.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how do we create a world where people are more honest in their dating?
Well, it has to not be based on runaway capitalism and greed to start off with. Right? I'm not a big fan of patriarchy. I'm not a big fan of the fact that, we're seeing so much more censorship and so much this, that, and the other, when everyone can feel comfortable being open and honest about their truths, when they're not harmed for it, when they're not, where they don't feel like some harm is going to come to them for being honest, right? They always have to hide it. Why? Because someone in society or society in general is going to judge them in a negative light. And I really think this is a massive problem right now. And obviously it's not everybody, but there's enough people, especially enough people in power, who, if the people who are being successful, especially monetarily right now, are the ones who are super selfish, greedy, and totally unethical, that is not a good way for society to go. And I feel like we need to change that. So I would say vote. You might have to actually get involved, those people out there in a free country, to keep it free. We can't always just sit home and be the armchair politicians and armchair commenters that we want to be. Sometimes, and especially in a democracy, we have to ensure that our democracy survives. And it may not if we, the public, the citizenry, the community doesn't get involved. And I see here in the United States of America that we're dealing with major issues with fascism, especially at the federal level. And I have no idea how dangerous this is for me to even speak about, but I will speak about it, because if we don't speak about it, and if fascists or dictators or oligarchs are allowed to take over, wealthy type bros, then the rest of us are not going to be okay. Freedom only exists, democracy only exists in a population that supports it. So I would suggest to people out there to get involved in supporting democracy. Look outside modern media, especially media, look who owns it, as to what they're telling you and why they're telling you that. Is it really accurate? Do your homework elsewhere, find different sources. And I would suggest people really do some research on what's going on socially, politically, not only here in the US of A, but everywhere. And watch the people in power, hold them accountable, and find a way for the 99% to hold that 1% accountable to the people. I think that will solve a lot of our problems. I think it's societal. Yeah.
Yes, freedom and sexuality go hand in hand with one another, definitely. I wanted to ask you about, so you've mostly been dating men and the men that have been standing you up. So on an individual level, are you saying that that men would be more successful in dating if they were just honest about wanting hookups, if that's what they want? If they told women that that's what they were after? Are you saying that they would be more successful as opposed to ghosting or, lying to get their way into the bedroom? Do you think women respond more to honesty?
Definitely, but you also have to back up that. If I'm looking for somebody who's quality, you actually have to be quality. There's the problem right there, right? There's so many of these people that, for example, somebody who's a male, especially who's single later in life, I could ask why he's single later in life when there's so many good women out there. What is it about you that the other women have learned and didn't want to stick around for it? And nothing personal, but there's a lot of guys that are not in a position where they would be a good catch. And I'm sorry to say this, but it's true. The other side of it is because people, and males especially, have the internet, technology, a cam girl, AI, right? Fake girlfriend kind of stuff, which, by the way, I hate. That's horrible. Definitely talk to the real ones. They may go without dealing with real people. And when you do that, you're not socialized. And you're most likely not going to be the kind of guy that a girl like me would want to date. And then you're in a situation where maybe this is the first female who actually wanted to go on a date with you, so you just spluttered out a yes, but never meant to do it. Don't do that. I'm gonna see you as a poser right away, not respect you, and I can guarantee you I can drop a guy's ego in 5 seconds if he pulls that shit on me. Don't waste my time. If I'm giving you an opportunity, be honest, take it or don't take it, But if you stand me up and send me somewhere, you better believe you're going to get a really nasty message in return, and you deserved it. Don't do that. It's not going to help your ego. So these guys just need more socializing. They need more of a chance to actually interact with the population, especially the female population, should you so desire females in your life. And I feel like a lot of them are not getting that with the technology and just being alone all the time. So that isolation is really bad for most people. And it's been especially bad for the males online. So again, talk to a female. Don't pull that shit on me. Know what my top 5 are. We talked about respect and communication, didn't we? You know, and your intent, you can't just say it and not do it. I tend to try to encourage real consequences for people who do that to other people, and not in a dangerous way, but more in a, you know, take accountability way, and don't repeat that behavior. Did you learn something from this? Because that must have not felt good to your ego when I tore it down to this big, that this person deserved it for pulling that on me. And then, you know, I cut and leave because I'm not going to waste my time with somebody who's not going to put in time and effort towards me. So that's another thing, guys. And anyone out there, put in the time and effort towards the person that you actually want to meet, assuming you actually want to meet them. And this isn't just some game you're playing with a live human. Don't do that. I don't get the chance to meet very many women, although I'd love to date women. I don't really know how. And again, remember, I'm banned from a number of these, banned from Tinder, banned from Bumble, and they don't even tell you why. I was really popular for a while until I got banned for who knows what. So I wouldn't even know where to go online or even in the community and meet women who might be prospective dates or dynamics or relationships. And same with people who are pan. And I'm in more of a rural area in SoCal. I'm just not in the middle of the city, you know? So I have a lot less opportunity and use the internet more often, but I've found that, again, I'm just not really finding my people necessarily this way. So if anybody has suggestions on good places to actually meet quality individuals of all genders and orientations, fine with me. Yeah, let me know. Because again, I've tried a few of them and they just always backfired by me getting banned for life.
I recommend Skirt Club. Have you heard of Skirt Club?
But I will write it down.
So I had the founder on the podcast. I can't remember what number it was. I think it was near the end of last year, but if you type in the Erotic Realm Skirt Club, it'll come up. It's a group for bisexual women. So there's also pansexual women there, but it's predominantly for bisexual women. The founder is bisexual, and they host events all around the world. And I'm pretty sure there are some in California at different times, but they also have an online forum as well where you can meet and chat with women. And when she was on the podcast, she mentioned that she was launching an app soon, which I'm not sure if it's happened yet. So Women for Women or femme identifying people. Yeah, I'd recommend checking that out.
Okay, perfect. And thank you. I appreciate it. Because again, it's coming from not knowing anything. And again, who was I able to ask questions of? Pretty much nobody.
Yeah.
You know, I was kind of fortunate that my mom growing up taught me some basics about female health and reproduction and stuff like that. But she was in 2 only monogamous relationships her whole life, and we didn't go much past that. So, and that was my main parent. And I mean, who else am I going to ask other than reading books, you know, getting an education, going to university, and then getting online and just talking to people and asking them. I would say that's the one thing that I love about this is we should be open enough and safe enough in safe communities enough to be able to have more of these conversations and to meet more friends. Because if you don't practice this stuff, you don't practice your socialization, you're not going to get any good at it. You need practice. You know, everybody needs practice.
Yes.
And one of the things I've done to try to solve this is I've started hosting local parties, very small, very intimate, maybe 10 to 15 people. And I bring my friends, but I also try to invite a few people along that I haven't met yet. And I'll vet them first, you know, before I do the invite. But again, I think we need more places for the community to come together. And especially in my small community that's more rural and not city, and there's not much here, right? If nobody else is doing it, then it looks like I've got to do it. Yeah. So yeah, you'll see if you are on where we met. I don't want to bring it up if I'm not allowed to.
No, you can.
Okay, on FetLife, for example, that's where a lot of the kink and sexual dynamic type of community stuff, right, is listed under events. So yeah, hopefully I'll be hosting more parties, bringing more people together, and we can all have that ability to make new friends, socialize, and have safe fun on like a Saturday night in our small community with other community members. And I love that I'm able to do this because I think it's super positive.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Well, that's something that you're looking forward to in terms of the community that you're creating. What about in terms of your individual eroticism? Do you have something in mind that you want to explore in the near future?
It's exceptionally difficult when the people that I would play with have to be super high quality in terms of what the sexual dynamic would be. And like I said, most of the people that I meet are only interested in sex and not much else. And so not having, again, a relationship, either a single partner nor multiple partners, has made it kind of tricky to evolve more. I would also say that in terms of work, and especially in terms of camming, way less. All of the issues with the economy here, censorship, people are stressed about a lot of economic and social political things mean that they tend to spend a lot less. So as a cam model who is supported by tips and a menu and commission based, I'm not making as much money right now. And I noticed that there's a lot fewer people, a lot fewer clients or users in some of these cam sites. And, there's ups and downs. It's usually better right when people get out of school, at the beginning of summer. Then as summer progresses, and I imagine probably more towards, holiday 4th of July, it'll actually get less because people are out, at least in the Northern Hemisphere summer. People are out either on vacation or they're outside doing things, so they're not necessarily in front of their in front of their computer, in front of their phone, whatever, engaging in the cam girl experience. And so it has really affected my business, and I've had to diversify. But that also gives me a challenge to do new and fun stuff. So I'm just sort of consistently looking towards, hey, how can I expand this, and how can I better the community, and how can I keep progressing as a businesswoman and in my own personal life?
I love it. Yeah, it's important to diversify and it pushes you into new exciting areas. So that can be fun as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And finally, if you had to describe your erotic self in one word and one word only, what would that word be and why?
Empath.
Mm-hmm.
The sixth sense. There's nothing quite like it. I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't even be on this journey, I think, if I didn't have the need to and the desire to further explore the side of myself. A lot of people bury it. And a lot of people are really uncomfortable being around other people because we're so sensitive to the feelings of others. If you're in a big crowd, it can be really overwhelming for somebody who's really empathically open. Mm-hmm. So we tend to like nature and or being alone and smaller groups, which again, I think is why I am more drawn to the idea of a relationship, either mono or poly, and being in smaller groups. And until I find that, again, I'm playing around and I am exploring with certain people and doing, what I do. But I think that would be my ideal, is those small group experiences. Those are usually the best, especially for me. Mm-hmm.
And where can listeners find out more about you and the work that you offer?
Sure. So I'm May Super, aka Super Vagtastic. Yes, she is. The girl's got a super vag. We all know it. We can see it. The videos are up. And I also go by the tag My Mistress May. So I'm on OnlyFans, Fansly, Minivids. I don't have my own website yet, but that'll probably be coming. Right now, my main one is Chatterbait, so you can find me there when I'm camming. And if you want to, be part of my Telegram or something like that, or check out my social media on X, Twitter, even Insta, although I might be slightly shadow banned on Insta because I can't get over 200 followers. Smart, intelligent, outspoken woman. Oops. Help me out. Anybody who's out there following, who helps in any way by following or subscribing, and or messaging me. It's not that hard to do a PM when I'm live on Chatterbait. Come talk to me. If you've got questions, if you want to do a role play, if you want to see how the girl orgasms, it's all an option. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, May, thank you for sharing your story and thank you for spending the years that you've spent creating a space where people can feel safe enough to reveal parts of themselves they've often hidden from the world. And I think today's conversation reminds us that behind almost every fantasy and desire is a very human need to be understood, accepted, and seen. So thank you for taking us into your erotic realm today.
Thank you so much. Have fun and be safe.
Thanks again. I'm Em, and this has been the Erotic Realm Podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Erotic Realm Podcast. This is an independent podcast, and if you want to see more episodes made just like this one, you can support it at psychologyofdesire.com by becoming a paid subscriber and entering the realm with many other supporters. The mission of the Erotic Realm is to humanize kink and desire in all of its forms, and we can't do that without you. So until the next time, stay perverted.